What's going on, IA friends and family? Logan Arliss here, joining you for another Webinar Wednesday event. Glad to see you guys are all on here to watch tonight. We've got a very exciting guest. We're going to get to see what it's like to be a tanker pilot fighting fires from the air. Before we get into that, though, I'd like to give some congratulations from the Academy. We had some first solos occur recently. Mr. Cade Sturrett, Gordon Kissay, Nicholas Dugo, Ben Kisla. Congratulations to those few for soloing for the first time. We have some brand new private pilots in Jacob Hare, Connor Wagner, Leonard Pristalski, Riley White, Tong Lin, and Thomas Edgar. Congratulations to them for achieving a private pilot certificate. And a brand new instrument rated pilot, Mr. Andrew West, as well as a brand new commercial pilot, Mr. Mohammed Fayzuddin. So congratulations, guys. Keep up the good work. Keep working towards those goals. So our guest for tonight comes from Neptune Aviation Services, one of the largest firefighting services in the world. Mr. Kevin Condit, he is the marketing manager. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him onto the call. If you guys have questions throughout the series, please comment below. We're watching, and we will get to all your comments by the end of the webinar. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, Logan, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today, sir?
Good, thank you.
Well, I just wanted to say, again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to bring a little piece of your aviation world and sharing that with us.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. So I'd like to get in. I'm going to play a little video and talk a little bit about Neptune Aviation Services here. So we'll get this video going. All right, such a cool video. That thing gives me goosebumps every time I start watching that. Neptune Aviation, founded in 1993, started in New Mexico. Operations were then moved to Montana shortly after, where they currently reside. For more than 2 decades, Neptune utilized the Lockheed Martin P2V, performing aerial firefighting missions for the U.S. Forest Service and other various state agencies. The P2Vs had performed over 47,000 firefighting missions, dropped 97 million gallons of fire retardant since inception. And then in 2017, the fleet of 7 P2Vs were retired, and they have since then moved to museums located across the country, which Kevin actually took part in that operation of retiring these aircraft. Neptune has proven to be an invaluable partner with the United States Forest Service, not only providing the majority of firefighting aircraft over the past 25 years, but fearlessly pursuing the research and development for a next-gen aircraft. Neptune was the first ever U.S. Operator to contract with the USFS in 2011 to develop a next-gen aircraft in the form of a Tanker 40, which was a converted British Aerospace BAE 146 that we're going to get to look at here shortly. A little snapshot of Neptune. So it provides aerial support and firefighting to the United States, Canada, Chile, and throughout the world. has approximately 250 employees and generates about 29 million per year. The BAE 146, so this is a passenger, an ex-airline aircraft that would carry passengers, about 100 passengers. Neptune currently operates a fleet of 9. They're capable of carrying 3,000 gallons of retardant, and they cruise in speeds excess of 350 knots, and they're also great at flying slow and maintaining their maneuverability as well. So Kevin, what makes the BAE 146 such a great aircraft for fighting fires, and what improvements have you seen with the 146 over the P2V?
Well, the P2V was a great workhorse that served both the military and Neptune well for Neptune for close to 25 years, and the military really since the late 40s. But the Forest Service wanted to move to an aircraft with all-weather capability, an aircraft that was maneuverable in a variety of challenging terrain conditions, that would interface seamlessly with air tanker bases around the country. And so the BAE was all those things and more for us, and it just made a great platform for aerial firefighting. And after about 4 years of research, we started to convert our first one, which you mentioned, Tanker 40, and then went into trials, and then that aircraft was approved by the Forest Service, and subsequent to that, we've converted 8 more tankers.
That's awesome. Very amazing. Lots of research and development, a lot of work on Neptune's part to come up with that. Now, Neptune's fleet of these BAE 146s that they use for aerial firefighting are equipped with a revolutionary active response tank. And this was also designed by Neptune Aviation. Can you describe this system briefly, how it works and why it's so revolutionary?
Sure. The old systems, if you will, were gravity-based systems. And so the retardant would come out of the aircraft in different flow rates depending on the altitude and attitude of the aircraft, what it was doing. Neptune's active response system is basically a computer-based system that can change the flow on 5 different valves through the base of the aircraft. And we can change the flow of the retardant coming out of the aircraft about every quarter of a second. So as we maneuver through terrain, that flow out of the aircraft is perfect, and it gives us very accurate drops that help combat wildfires in various types of terrain. So in the early season, we might be fighting fires in Florida in very flat terrain where the retardant will come out of the aircraft slow and steady. We can have it come out almost a mile long, whereas in the kind of late summer, this time of year, we're more in mountainous territory. We might be dropping all 3,000 gallons of retardant over a course of 800 feet. And so you can see the delivery system is really critical to our mission in aerial firefighting. Absolutely,
that plays a big role. So as you mentioned before, a lot of this is pilotage on, hitting your marks and being able to get that retardant on the exact precise location that you want it. So how much planning goes into each one of these missions, and how do things like wind, types of vegetation, the size of the fire, and the region that you're fighting the fire in affect a mission?
So every mission is unique to the territory, the weather, the wind, the vegetation. So everything changes day in and day out in terms of what we're doing. We operate out of bases around the country. The Forest Service has about 65 bases throughout the country where they load the aircraft with retardant. And so the mission, if it was, say, in Kansas, would be a lot different than if the mission was in Arizona, if we were fighting a fire on the outskirts of Scottsdale, Arizona, for example. And one thing that's unique with Neptune is all of our captains on our aircraft are initial attack rated, which means they can be dispatched, take a look at the type of fire, the type of terrain from the air, and then decide how to best combat that fire. And that is very unique. But in a typical scenario, we're working with the base manager and the manager on the fire. We're working in close concert with the ground troops and also whatever air traffic is over that particular fire. And really, every fire is just a little bit different. And so it's both a science and an art.
Absolutely, yep. So we had a question come in. One of the viewers was wondering, what is the fire retardant made out of, and why is it red when you look at it in the pictures?
Okay, so the retardant is red. Retardant is red, so we can, as we're building a line, a fire break on the ground, that we can connect those lines on different drops. So it's very easy to see from the sky. And the retardant itself is a combination of water, dirt, fertilizer, and coloring. And it is a retardant rather than an extinguishant. And so we're not dropping generally the retardant directly on the fire. We're building fire breaks so that we can contain a fire.
Very interesting. Now, the aircraft that you fly, when they're loaded up with the retardant, I assume they're pretty close to max gross weight, and immediately after that retardant is depleted, it's going to be losing a lot of load out of the aircraft. How much does this affect the characteristics of the aircraft, and is it immediate? Do you feel that change immediately?
Yeah, so a full load of retardant, 3,000 gallons, will weigh about 28,000 pounds. And if you could imagine discharging 28,000 pounds as quick as 8 seconds, it makes a huge difference in the feel of the aircraft and how the aircraft performs. So you do feel it. You're basically, when you're dropping the retardant, you're doing an approach to land. The speed of the aircraft, we slow way down to about 120 knots, and you're generally over the ground 150 feet. And so as you're making that drop, you definitely feel the aircraft lighten up, and you have to make adjustments as you're making your drop.
Absolutely, I'm making adjustments right on the spot there. Now, over the course of your career, have you observed fires getting stronger or more frequent? And in which states or regions have you fought the most fires?
So the fire seasons are definitely getting longer and more severe. Without getting political, the weather is warming up and the forests are drying out. And we, as Americans, tend to be building in more forested areas. So we're definitely seeing busier and longer fire seasons. It's particularly common in the West to have busy fire seasons. And if anyone's paid attention to the news that's watching, they obviously have probably heard about the California wildfires that seem to be getting more and more fierce every year. So we're probably, California would be the region that we fight the most in. But like I said, we have fought fires almost every state in the country, as well as Canada, Chile, Alaska, and we're even working with Australia right now.
Wow. So yeah, I was looking earlier on, there's a map you can pull up. So there's, I think it was over like 2,500 wildfires currently going on. Which ones are you guys mostly combating currently today?
So we're on, all 9 aircraft are deployed. And in any given day, we might, I'll give you an example, we might, an aircraft might start the day in Pueblo, Colorado. It might drop a couple of loads of retardant in the Pueblo area, and then it might fly over to Salt Lake City and drop some loads of retardant there. And then it might end up late afternoon in Boise and drop retardant loads in the Boise area. So we're generally not on just one fire in a given day. We might be dropping loads of retardant on 7 or 8 different fires.
Very interesting. Now, how can pilots become tanker pilots? So how does Neptune select their pilots, and are there minimum hour requirements or experience requirements? So, I mean, what you guys are doing is unlike, really anything else in aviation. The missions that you guys are flying, I can kind of simulate it to crop dusting, but the BA-146 is a much larger aircraft to be doing that stuff in. So,
Yeah. So interestingly enough, we don't have a hard fast rule in terms of hour requirements. Obviously, they have to have plenty of flight hours. They have to be night capable, IFR rated, and basically, show a passion for aerial firefighting. Some of our pilots have come out of the military. Some have come out of flight schools. Some have come out of the airlines. And so there's really no one correct career path into aerial firefighting. But if any of your listeners are interested, I would say, start to research the industry a little bit and look at different companies and kind of see how you can to get involved in aerial firefighting. There's no one right way.
Right. So you mentioned night currency. Do you guys fight fires at night as well?
We do not right now, but it is a technology that we're developing, and it's one of the things that I see changing in aerial firefighting as I look into my crystal ball over the course of the next 4 or 5 years.
Awesome. So once a pilot is selected, what does the training footprint look like for a newly hired pilot at Neptune Aviation?
Well, you're definitely going to be in the co-pilot seat. Generally, the way a year works for a pilot at Neptune, in January, we start our annual training, and all the pilots, regardless of whether they're rookies or 20 years of experience, are going to go through that training. A lot of classroom time in those early weeks. And then we have a simulator training. We actually use a British aerospace facility over in England. And so you're over in England for a couple of weeks doing simulator training. And then it's back to Missoula, where we do flight training and drop 3,000 gallons of water on imaginary fires in the middle of the winter in the Rocky Mountains. And so, that's kind of how you're working for the first 3 months of the year. And then basically fire season is starting up come late March, early April.
Very interesting. Now we had another question come in about the retardant. So one of our viewers wants to know, how long does it take you to refill an airplane with retardant?
So we can refill an aircraft in as quick as 16 minutes.
Wow.
And that would be a scenario where we're doing a hot load where 2 out of the 4 engines are running, and we're loading and getting ready to go as quickly as possible.
Like a pit crew. So today, in today's dynamic and uncertain climate, how has the job changed and how has training changed, since you started? With the climate, as I mentioned earlier, the fires are fiercer, the seasons are longer, and the training is more rigorous. The industry 25 years ago was very much kind of a cowboy mentality, and you hopped into your plane and went and dumped on a fire. And over the course of the years, that wasn't the safest way to operate. And so really the industry is becoming more and more safety focused, and more training, and like I said, longer fire seasons for sure. Great. So what does the life of a tanker pilot look like? So are they on call? How often are they flying, through the fire season? And what does the off season look like for a tanker pilot?
So early in the fire season, there's a lot of kind of sit and wait, where you're basically at the fire base, and you're staying at the fire base. So at a typical day, you check out of your hotel, you put your suitcases in the aircraft, and then you wait to be called out on the fire. So there's a lot of movement, like I explained earlier. You might not go to bed in the same place that you woke up. Generally, what we try to do is have our pilots 3 weeks on and then 3 weeks off. The off season, our pilots are full time. There's a break kind of mid-December through mid-January, but then it's back into training. So, typical fire season, 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off, but it's a full-time job.
Wonderful. We had another question come in. One of the viewers was wondering, why do you guys operate in Chile, and how do you operate logistically so far away?
Basically, we are operating in Southern Hemisphere countries when it's winter here in the United States. And so there are forest fires, obviously, all over the world. And so, you can fight on fires in South Africa or in Australia, New Zealand, Chile, Brazil, what have you. And so basically, in those off-season times, we will send 1 or 2 or 3 of our tankers down to the country that needs aerial firefighting, and just contract with the government of the country.
Great. Now, what would you say the tanker pilots love most about being a tanker pilot?
So obviously there's an adrenaline rush. You are working hard to basically protect people, protect their homes, protect ranches and animals and farms, protect people's livelihood, protect communities and cities. So there's just a really important mission that we're accomplishing for people. So that again and again and again, our pilots are thanked by communities for doing the work that they're doing. And so it's very much like being a first responder, except by air.
Absolutely, yep. And that adrenaline rush, we'll see here in this video that I was going to play. So we got a video of one of your Neptune airplanes. So after watching that video, I mean, there's no denying that this job is one of the most dangerous jobs in aviation. So how do the pilots ensure their safety and make sure that they'll have a long, successful career?
Okay, so in that particular video, I will say that the Neptune pilot flew too low. If you watch it, you can see the dust and debris on the ground moving. So that actually became a very important video in our training. And it also shows that how quickly you can lose the concept of your altitude in the air over changing terrain. So, there's no question it's a very, very dangerous job. And we learn every single day. There's got to be a great deal of communication between the pilot and the co-pilot and the teams on the ground. And so that's in some ways, that's a great video to demonstrate what not to do.
Absolutely. Now, are there any exciting future plans in the works for Neptune Aviation?
Well, we talked a little bit about the night capability, and that's one of the things that we're working on, not only with the technology of how we fight fires, but also that takes a bit of a change in terms of how the fire managers want to fight the fires. And we've seen the night capabilities and the use of helicopters in aerial firefighting at night. And so I think that's something that we'll see. And Neptune is always kind of looking in the crystal ball and saying, okay, well, our current aircraft can go X amount of speed and carry this many gallons of retardant. Do we want to have a larger aircraft with more gallons of retardant? What are the pros and cons of that? Do we want to have smaller aircraft with smaller loads of retardant. What are the pros and cons of that? So, basically Neptune has kind of a think tank where we're basically measuring out the pros and cons of where we'll go next in our business.
Well, we're excited to see where you do end up going. And what advice would you give to a young pilot wanting to be successful in the world of aviation or in the world of fighting fires from the air?
So, I definitely would say have a passion for learning. No matter what aviation business that you're in, as long as you're learning and increasing your skill set, you are going to be successful in aviation. And so just have a passion for what you're doing. And another thing that translates well to any aviation job is have respect for the people around you. You're only as good as how you treat your crew and your mechanics, and the knowledge that you have and they share with you about the aircraft itself that you're on. And so I would say, keep that passion for learning and keep that passion for knowing your aircraft and your crews and your capability, and treat everyone around you with respect. And that way, it's aviation is a teamwork business.
It absolutely is, Kevin. Well, great piece of advice, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was really a pleasure. I know you're a busy guy, so to take some time out of your night and help spread the aviation world with us, we really appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad that we could be a part of your program tonight. And if anyone has questions, they can always reach us here at Neptune. We'd be happy to answer any of their questions.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Kevin.
All right. Thank you.
All right, guys, that is it for the program tonight. Stay tuned. On the 19th, we'll be talking to a Navy F-18 pilot and instructor. So we will see you all then. Have a nice night, guys.